I, for my part, also would like to invite Judith McMunn to come up for 1 second and announcement as well. And so, Chris, why don't you start us off, and we'd love to hear from you. Yes.
Does this work? Yes. Hi. Yeah, Tom asked me to introduce myself and say a little bit about myself. I'm Chris White, and I'm starting as your music director. I have been interim for a little while, but I'm gonna transition into a more permanent position with y'all. So I wrote a little introduction about myself. It takes 3.5 minutes, I promise. I started playing organ in high school. I was a pianist, and I was working with an orchestra, and one of the violinists there asked whether I play the organ. She was on a search committee for the local Unitarian church looking for a new music director, and I said, no, I don't play the organ, but nobody's paying me to play piano, so I'm happy to learn. And that started my walk with church music. After high school, I intended to major in piano performance at Oberlin College, but I got really bad tendinitis in my hands that I couldn't play piano, and I had this organ thing in my back pocket, and so I transitioned into an organ major, and so I graduated with a degree in organ and in German from Oberlin, and after that, I was sort of at a crossroads because I really loved church music. During undergrad, I started working at a Episcopal church about a half hour out of Oberlin near Akron. And I absolutely fell in love with the Episcopal liturgy, the Episcopal tradition, the musical tradition of the Episcopal church. But I had also started an interest in music theory. Music theory is to music like linguistics is to English, where in the linguistics department you sort of look at how people learn about language, how language is structured on the page, how language is structured in how we speak, and this is what music theory does for music. And I got really interested in that. And so instead of going on in church music, I went on in music theory, and I did my master's at Queens College in Queens, New York, and then I did my PhD at Yale University. But all the while I was playing, I was doing churches on the side. I did a fancy high Episcopal church in Westchester County. I worked at a Caribbean Episcopal church in the South Bronx. I worked at a Baptist church in Fairfield County in Connecticut. After Yale, I got a job at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and that's where I met my husband. My husband Rob. We got married legally in North Carolina about 8 years ago. 7 years ago, we got church married after we moved up to Sunderland, Massachusetts, when I got a job at UMASS Amherst teaching music theory. Let's see, that's 7 years ago. 6 years ago, we decided to enter into the Massachusetts foster care system, and we started, and then 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we were placed with a beautiful baby boy from Springfield named Janziel. 2 years later, we would adopt Janziel. He was a year after that, he was diagnosed with severe autism, and so that's part of our parenting walk. I worked during this time at North Hadley Congregational Church. It's a small congregational church in Hadley, but my husband also during this time decided to go back to school and get his Master's of Divinity. So he travels once a week to Boston to do that. He'll be graduating this year, but he also got hired at Trinity Methodist Church, the big Methodist church next to Forest Park. And when he got hired there, I stopped playing organ at North Hadley. But then this position opened up. And I'm just so so delighted to have this opportunity to re-enter the Episcopal Church, the world, to serve and to participate in the tradition of Episcopal music. I wanted to also say two things about my approach to church music. I think, on the one hand, I think that church music should not be background music. And to that end, I often make really strong choices in what I choose to play and for what the choir to sing. And to that end, I've started writing these music notes so that if ever at like the offertory you're like, what is this lunatic doing up front? You can scan the QR code, read my thoughts around the music. And so even if you don't agree with me, you will know what my motivation is. And then the second part of my church music philosophy is that we're at a really interesting point in church history. Every time that there's been a decline in church membership in the historical church, there's been a sea change, a fundamental change in how music is used in church. And so what I think is that I'm not here to make church sound like it sounded when I was a kid. I'm not here to make church sound like it sounded like when my parents were kids. But I'm also here to make church sound like home to those of us who grew up in the church. And so I don't know what that looks like every Sunday. I can't encapsulate that in a couple of sentences, but that's what I'm driving for when I make choices in choosing what music to play for you on and to sing for you on Sunday morning, is to balance those two things. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm really looking forward to working with you all, and God bless. Thank you, Craig.